Hey YouTube, thanks so much for clicking on this graphic novel collection video for 2021. And just before this video starts off and I'm gonna show you each and every book that is on this bookshelf, I just want to tell you that I've been on a hiatus from making these graphic novel collection update videos just because ever since the 2018 video I have started to make some changes within my collecting habits and all. And since that video, I had over 900 books in my collection, but I am now downsizing to a number just above 500. And I am still aiming for a less number than that. Yeah, I've just been reading and rereading all the books, and some of which I never reread. I just sold them off because I want to make a better collection. And what a better collection means for me is books that you want to read and then reread over and over again. And yeah, so what I want to say is that this collection, it's not something that you should aim for in any sort of way. What you should aim for is getting books that you love and that you love to read and reread over and over again, not just to have a massive amount of books. That is something that I've learned these last few years. But I hope you'll enjoy this video and comment down in the section below, and please subscribe because I recently noticed that over 9% of my viewers are not subscribed to this channel, so it would be nice to see a bump up in that, and we'll see a bump up in videos as well. And that's all for me. Hope you'll enjoy the video. Okay, so here goes. The first row is of my DC books. And this used to be maybe all Batman at some point, but now when we're here, we of course still start off with Batman. And what we have here first is 4 paperback thick editions of the Batman No Man's Land. And with the Road to No Man's Land Omnibus now being released, I expect nothing less but to have these being released in Omnibus as well. I believe 2 volumes it should be split upon. And the same goes for Batman Bruce Wayne Murderer and Batman Bruce Wayne Fugitive. It would make up one great omnibus. But what I really want them to do is to have a Batman War Games omnibus, because the first time I read this, it was a surprise to me. I didn't know that I would enjoy this so much, and I think that's a bit controversial because this introduces Stephanie Brown and everything, and she becomes the Robin and so on, and then where her storylines ends up, I think depending on who you ask, it's a great story arc, but I really enjoyed this. And something that I also all of these I still need to reread, but I'm planning to do a Batman readathon after I finished my Spider-Man readathon. And here, of course, we have Batman Under the Red Hood, still an essential Batman read, I think. I really enjoyed the animated movie. I watched that several times over, but only read this once. Then we have Batman and Robin Eternal, volumes 1 and 2. With the Batman Eternal omnibus being released, this one should be a definite for DC to publish. It's only 28 issues and would make up a nice slim omnibus hardcover. Then, of course, we have Batgirl, the Stephanie Brown era, volumes 1 and also volume 2. I don't know. I think I like the design of Stephanie Brown. Actually, I think it's this cover that sold me on her and wanting to check her out, because the first story I really read with her in it was in the Grant Morrison Batman Incorporated series. And yeah, that's how I got a little interested in Stephanie Brown. Then we have here the Longmeadow Press leather-bound books, the Frank Miller at this time complete edition. It collects the Batman Year One, Wanted, Santa Claus, Dead or Alive, and The Dark Knight Returns. And nice silver pages and everything. And I rarely open up this book, because it's so fragile. I think it was printed in 1989, and the same goes for the Joker stacked deck, and it's in gold pages on this one, and some early appearances of the Joker collected within this one up till the point of 1989. I rarely see those books, and by that I keep them because I don't think I'll ever see them again. And very nice, a little bit of history into the collection, I guess. Another book that I rarely see in other people's collection is the Batman Child of Dreams, and it is a Batman manga book. So the format size is a bit different. It's much let's see, wider in frame, but a lower book. It's about the same height as a standard edition, but a lot more wider. And yeah, of course we have some Bat manga out there, but rarely see this one, and it has a font that they use for, I believe they use this for Batman Forever or something, so I thought this was gonna be something about that at first, but no, just Bat manga. Okay, so I have already noticed that I need to speak a lot more quicker about all these books if I'm ever gonna get through all this, because 5 minutes for just these books is just too much. So what do we have more? Master Race, Resurrection of Rachel Gould, Battle for Cal and Road Home, Black Mirror, one of Scott Snyder's best books, or it probably is his best Batman book. Birds of Prey by Gail Simone. Then we have some Dark Knight books, or Dark Knight Metal, and Batman Last Night on Earth. And then of course the very long awaited Geoff Johns and Jason Padlock Batman 3 Jokers, which I enjoyed, but of course it is a controversial opinion on where you stand on the continuity of it and all. Tales from the DC Dark Multiverse, kind of a spin-off out of the multiverse that is affected by Dark Knight's Metal. Flash Rebirth by Geoff Johns, still one of the best books that I've read, and a great introduction into the Flash universe, actually. Justice League Generation Lost. This is a good read to pick up after reading Infinite Crisis, if you want to continue on the Maxwell Lord story arc. Then we have some books from the New 52, the Geoff Johns Justice League series, and the first, of course, is Forever Evil. And then we have some Justice League of America volumes that ties into that series or event, and the final 2 volumes, Forever Heroes and Injustice League. The first 4 volumes I've sold, and that is just because they are releasing an omnibus, so that'll take up the space for the first 4 volumes. Then the Dark Knight in the New 52 era. This is the first volume is drawn by David Finch and everything, second one, and then we have some other artists, but the stories in these is really why I kept them, because they mainly focus on the villains and twist them in sort of darker ways, and I really like that. Batman Earth 1, volumes 1 and 2, third volume's getting out this summer. Can't wait for them to finish off this series. And the series that was finished many, many years ago, the Earth 1 Superman, volumes 1, 2, and 3, written by J. Michael Straczynski. So on the second row, we have the final standard size editions, and that is the Geoff Johns Doomsday Clock box set with 3 volumes in there. And I'm really hoping for them to release a absolute of this one day. It would be really nice just to get that oversized Gary Frank artwork. Batman Arkham Asylum, Grant Morrison. Killing Joke, Alan Moore. And Batman Year 1, Frank Miller. I think that is your holy trinity when it comes to essential Batman reads, almost. And then we have a deluxe edition of Batman Hush, the 15th anniversary edition. Brian Azzarello, Batman, deluxe edition. Batman Two-Face, Face the Face. That's a lot of faces. Batman Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader by Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert. And then we get sort of the Justice League books or different types of Crisis, like the Crisis on Infinite Earths deluxe edition, Dark Knight's Metal, and then a Green Arrow book, which I believe, yes, is signed by Jeff Lemire. One of the, I think he's the greatest artist and writer that I've had the opportunity to meet, actually. I've met several others that has made signatures to my books, but those I've actually sold. So I think Jeff Lemire is the one that I've actually kept. Brad Meltzer's Identity Crisis. Say what you want about that. And Justice League of America by Brad Meltzer. And drawn by Ed Benes, and also written by Geoff Johns at the second part of this book. And really hope them to keep on releasing these, because this is a great era for the Justice League. At least the first 5 standard hardcover volumes that collected this series in the beginning was really strong, in my opinion. Kingdom Come by Mark Waid. Really need to reread this also once I get to reread all of this. Mr. Miracle by Tom King. The best book that I read last year, probably. If not, it was Spider-Man Life Story, but it stands between this and that of the best read for 2020 for me. Then we have Grant Morrison's Multiversity, diving into all of the 52 Earths, or some of them, during the New 52 era. Speaking of the Superman Unchained New 52 era by Scott Snyder and Jim Lee, basically bought this because of Jim Lee, and it's just great artwork overall by him. This one. Watchmen, Alan Moore, of course, and Batman Hush Unwrapped. So another edition of Hush. This is the very first book that I picked up that was a unwrapped edition, and I believe the very first book that had Jim Lee's artwork in it. And the unwrapped is, like I said, just with pencils. And yeah, it really sold me on the Hush story arc, and that therefore why I also picked up the deluxe edition. And then we have the Rebirth era, which I had all of the deluxe editions of at one point, but then reread a bunch of them, and some of them I didn't even need to reread to know that I would never read them again. So these are the ones that have stayed, and some of them I've sold just because they're getting the Omnibus treatment. And let's see here, what we start off with is, of course, the DC Universe Rebirth Deluxe Edition by Geoff Johns and Gary Frank. And then we have the Button, which basically picks up from where this ends. And then we have our 5 for now released Batman Deluxe editions, so volumes 1 to 5. Then we have The Flash volumes 1, 2, and 3 by Williamson. And I'm thinking about selling these, but I want to do a proper reread out of all the Flash material that I have before I do so. Then we have Superman Action Comics, volumes 1, 2, and 3, just to reread next between the Tomasi Omnibus once that is released, and then Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman. And last but not least for this row, we have the Dark Knight Returns Collector's Edition, which collects each and every issue out of that in one book each to go together with my Dark Knight's Master Collector's Edition. And here we go. I think I have all of the books in the frame. As you can see, this is the start off of the Omnibus collector editions, and they do take up a lot of space. A lot of the DC published Omnibus is a lot more thicker than the Marvel ones, and therefore they take up a lot of space. But the first book here to our left is actually not a Omnibus. It is the Dark Knight Master Race collector edition, which keeps 12 of these individual hardcovers with the sketch variants drawn by Jim Lee, and therefore I have kept these, but at the same time I bought that standard Batman edition hardcover just to make it an easier read whenever I want to reread that series. So yes, it is a double dip for sure. Then we have all of the Batman books basically, all going into the next row. So Batman 66 Omnibus, Gotham Central, probably the greatest thing on this shelf, if not the Batman by Morrison. Batman, Jeff Loeb's and Tim Sale, it's really good. All of this is good, that is why I've kept it. Then we have Batman Nightfall, Knight's Quest, and Knight's End. Road to No Man's Land. Please DC, give us No Man's Land, volumes 1 and 2 now. And Grant Morrison's volumes 1, 2, and 3. Great set of books. And last but not least, the Batman by Scott Snyder, volume 1. We want volume 2. And here on the next row, as I said, we keep on with the Batman books, and Batman and Robin, New 52 by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, and then also Batman Eternal Omnibus by Scott Snyder and James Tynion and Jason Pabok, Dustin Nguyen. Lots of great artists and writers involved within these ones. Trying to keep this in frame and no glare, it's hard to do this. It's a really thick book. And last but not least, for the Batman themed books, Harlequin and the Gotham City Sirens. I used to have the Harlequin Omnibus by New 52, but I really like the show a lot more, and I'd rather rewatch the TV show than reread her Omnibus. Then we have the Before Watchmen, and I really like that one. Of course, I love the show much better. I think I love the show even more than the original graphic novel. Is that blasphemous? Maybe. Then we have He-Man and Masters of the Universe Omnibus. I watched a little He-Man as I was growing up, but this one has to be the best material that I've seen of He-Man. Planetary still needs a reread, and I'll do that once I get to all of the DC Universe stuff. DC 1 Million Omnibus by Grant Morrison, and the 52 Omnibus by Geoff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, Mark Waid. Can you ask for better writers for one book? I don't think so. Seven Soldiers, Grant Morrison, and Final Crisis Omnibus, also Grant Morrison, basically. And then we dive into Geoff Johns' Blackest Night, one of the best events by Johns. And on this row, keep on strong with the Omnibus, and this is basically my Geoff Johns shelf. We have Brightest Day Omnibus, which is very out of print right now and very sought after. But people still talk down on this event, but I love this event just because of story that they make with Deadman and everything. And then we have Superman, The Exile, and other stories. Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens. That's how that looks. Oh, sorry. I was talking about Brightest Day and it wasn't even in the picture. But there it is. There's the book. And then we have Death and Return of Superman. I don't know which printing this is. Maybe the second printing. And I'm not gonna pull out more omnibus. These are heavy. Green Lantern by Geoff Johns, volumes 1, 2, and 3. His magnum opus, his best work, probably, would people say. But I do really love JSA by Geoff Johns. And then in the middle of those, we have The Flash by Geoff Johns. All of this. It's good. And I don't know what more to say about it, but yeah, some of Geoff Johns' greatest works is on this shelf, definitely. And on this shelf below us, we have more DC. We have Hawkman by Geoff Johns, and Infinite Crisis, the best DC event in my opinion, and Teen Titans by Geoff Johns, and followed by a much older generation, the new Teen Titans Omnibus volumes 1 to 4. This is, of course, the George Perez era. And then we have some new 52 stuff, as well as Rebirth, Aquaman by Geoff Johns, Deathstroke, The Flash by Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato, Super Sons, which is our very first Rebirth Omnibus. And we're getting more now with Superman and Detective Comics. And then we have the Darkseid War saga and Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chang. And then we start off with the Vertigo, or I think now Black Label Omnibus, The Animal Man by Grant Morrison. And right underneath the last shelf of Spider-Man Omnibus, as you can see, we have the very last Vertigo published DC Omnibus, and that is the Ex Machina by Brian K. Vaughan and Preacher by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. Of course, I'm waiting for a volume 2 of that. And last but not least, the Why the Last Man Omnibus by Brian K. Vaughan, which was a terrific read the second time around, reading it in this oversized format. And now let's go through the Marvel shelf completely. Okay, now let's do Marvel books. And we're starting off with a sort of alphabetical order. Actually, it's not even... I won't even try to defend my type of ordering of all the books. I think I'm just trying to make this aesthetically pleasing for my own eyes. So let's not dive into this of how I'm actually ordering my books. First off, we have the Avengers, the new Avengers Omnibus by Bendis, followed up by 4 deluxe hardcovers that finishes off that run of the series. And I think I just kept this omnibus next to them because, yeah, they have the same design around them, so I thought I could get away with that. And then we have Dark Avengers, also Bendis, Secret Wars, or Secret War, also by Bendis, and then Siege by Bendis. It's all Bendis. And then we have Secret War by Hickman, and Daredevil, End of Days, Extremis, followed up by Invincible Iron Man by Matt Fraction, volumes 1 and 2. And then we have Darth Vader by Charles Soule, volumes 1 and 2, really good read, really a fast read actually. And then Vision by Tom King, one of the best things that I've ever read. And also the same writer as, of course, Mr. Miracle. And they really have the same tone. And when I read Mr. Miracle for the first time, I was thinking, it's no way that it can be as good as Vision. But if I would read them neck to neck to each other, I would have a hard time deciding, I believe. Then we have the House of X, Power of X, and this is here for now. I don't know if I want to keep on reading or if I'm just gonna end with this one, because this is a great jumping on point as well as a jumping off point when it comes to the X-Men. But I really did enjoy the Hickman writing. And then we have some of the Marvel's original graphic novel line. I kept 2 of those books, and that is the Rage of Ultron and Amazing Spider-Man Family Business. And really should reread this now, as I've started a Spider-Man reading marathon 6 months ago now, and I'm on a good way. I just started reading Brand New Day. And then we have my Ultimate Spider-Man Deluxe editions. So this is volumes 4 to 12, and the first 3 volumes is collected within my Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus. And then we have Spider-Man Blue by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. So the same team that made the Dark Victory and Long Halloween Batman stories. A really good Gwen Stacy story. Then we have Spider-Man Civil War. I don't think I'll ever sell that one just because I paid such an overprice on it, to be honest. And then we have the Spider Island Deluxe Edition as well as the Spider Island Companion. And I do believe I'm gonna sell the Companion after I've made my reread out of all the Dan Slott books, because Companion books, it's not really Spider-Man in this one, it's all the other teams that takes up Manhattan. I mean, with Fantastic Four and I think Shang-Chi and some other people. And I think the first time I read it, it really showed me how little I care about other heroes than Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe. But of course, I have all these books now, so apparently I do care, but not in these particular stories of a Spider-Man story. And then Ends of Days, or what am I saying? Ends of the Earth. Next shelf. And here we keep on going with Spider-Man books. I think it's actually 100% Spider-Man books, and that is awesome. First off, we have a sort of a Elseworlds Tale, Spider-Man Reign. It's supposed to be the same kind of tone as The Dark Knight Returns, and really isn't. It's kind of depressing actually to read this, and I'm not going to go into detail about this more than that. So, something that I think is more fun is the revamp of Spider-Man, and of course this is also controversial depending on where you stand on the Spider-Man, and making my reread, I actually finally get why people was so upset about One More Day. But still, I was new at the game at the time when I picked these up, so the Brand New Day era actually is good in my opinion, and it collected all of these great books. I'm not gonna go through each and every title, but the Brand New Day first 3 hardcovers were great in my opinion. Then we have the Election Day. I really remember that I like this one. Then we have, of course, the 5 hardcover, The Gauntlet, which was diving into the Lizard and Juggernaut, Vulture and Morbius, Rhino and Mysterio, Electro and Sandman, all of these old type villains, and gave them sort of a revamp also, and gave them new purposes for why they went on as they did. and I think I'm rambling a bit. Still, let's go on. Then we have Big Time, of course. That is where Ramos steps in, and Dan Slott has completely taken over the title. Of course, the Fantastic Four era, Spider-Man Jones v. FF. And then we have some paperbacks here, The Amazing Spider-Man Worldwide and Venom Inc., just because they never printed those in any hardcover collection. Spider-Man Noir Complete Collection, just because it's my favorite alternate Spider-Man. And of course the great work of Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and drawn by Mark Bagley, which is one of my favorite artists on Spider-Man. And then to our right, we have the Superior Spider-Man by Dan Slott, volumes 1, 2, and 3, and Amazing Spider-Man volume 3, maybe 4, written by Dan Slott. They revamped to number 1 so many times when Dan Slott was involved. But yeah, I really hope that we can get a Superior Spider-Man Omnibus someday, because these stories are probably his best stories, like, ever. And of course we have my custom Spider-Man bookends. And on this row we continue with our Spider-Man material, Spider-Verse, which is basically this Spider Bible, I want to say. I just wish that the actual collection had the issues in the correct order, instead of having them from each and every title that was going on separately. And yeah, it's just, in that way it is a mess, and I do look it up on the internet each and every time that I do want to reread that, on which order I should go. So it's a lot of back and forth with that one. And then we have the final volumes with Dan Slott, the Worldwide books, first 3 volumes here called Worldwide, and then that is where the paperbacks jumps in. And then we have the Clone Conspiracy, and last but not least, the Red Goblin. And then I actually started new Marvel series. These are the latest 2 that I jumped into, and that is the Donny Cates Venom run, as well as the Al Ewing Immortal Hulk. And still going strong with those 2, so I'm still waiting for more oversized hardcovers to be released. And then we go into the rest of the Marvel Omnibus in my collection. And first off, you can see the 2 Jonathan Hickman Avengers books, and then the Daredevil by Mark Waid, volumes 1 and 2, and Amazing Spider-Man by JMS, volumes 1 and 2. 1 is round, 1 is flat, but it does not bother me. And Spider-Man Miles Morales, the last volume, written by Brian Michael Bendis, and sort of kept in this order just because aesthetically pleasing to have all of the white spined books like this. And then we have some odd ones here with Daredevil by Frank Miller and Daredevil Frank Miller Companion, and then Runaways by Brian K. Vaughan, and Secret Invasion, once again by Bendis. On this next shelf we have a lot more Omnibus fitting in, because all of these are much thinner, better collected editions, and it's more spread out. I mean, you can see a lot more characters here than just Spider-Man for once. So starting off with, once again, Bendis. I think Bendis is half of my collection, and then Dan Slott's Spider-Man is the other half. That is basically my Marvel collection. But yeah, Alias, and then we have Darth Vader by Gillen. This is one of the best reads that I've ever had when it comes to Star Wars content. I think always Darth Vader. I always go for Darth Vader. And then Planet Hulk, the new X-Men by Grant Morrison, and then the Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon. Those 2 forever keeping, but I'm still a little bit iffy about the Jonathan Hickman House of X, if I'm gonna keep that or not. And then we have Ed Brubaker's Captain America run in these 5 volumes, and they are doing reprints of volumes 1 and 2, and hopefully for you guys that don't have it, they'll make reprints for the next 3 as well. And then we go into Daredevil. Daredevil is... I never thought I would love so many books about this character, but I love the TV show and I love the series. Here we have the Joe Quesada era, Marvel Knights, Daredevil. Then we have the Bendis, which is my very first exposure of the Daredevil character. And yeah, to have it in this format is the best for me. And then we have the Brubaker era, and then Daredevil's Shadowland, which I think I keep just to reread the Shadowland issues, and the tie-ins can go to hell. But yeah, it's still there for completionist's sake. Try not to do that so much anymore, but it is there, and I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe it's this. Let's go on. The Ultimates by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. I used to have the other omnibus of the Ultimates, but written by, I don't remember, but it wasn't to the Mark Millar, Brian Hitch standards, because this is great. This is as 1 or 2 long movies, kind of. I basically read this in 1 day. And then, of course, we have Ultimate Spider-Man by Bendis once again, and the Ultimate Spider-Man spoiler title, Death of Spider-Man. And here we have the final row of Marvel books for this shelf, and these are a little more meatier. How am I going to say this? These are the thicker omnibus. I mean, much more content within them, and collecting more of the earlier era of Spider-Man. But of course, to our left here we have the Miles Morales by Brian Michael Bendis omnibus. So this kicks off the adventures of Miles, and this is the new printed edition, not the one that was published before that had terrible binding issues. But then we start off with the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era, and the John Romita, of course, and then volumes 3 and 4, and hopefully we'll get a volume 5 of The Amazing Spider-Man one day. Then we have Spider-Man by Roger Stern, which is getting a reprint, as well as The Amazing Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane. And I don't know, I usually try not to buy books based on the covers, but if I had this with a black suit cover, I would kind of want that. But I won't need that. Then we have Spider-Man by Eric Larson and David Michelinie, and the Spider-Man versus Venom. And all of these, I'm trying to fill up as many gaps as I can without buying the Marvel Epic Collection line from Spider-Man, because it was a lot of double dipping just buying those editions as well as the omnibus. So I'm just holding out for them to print everything in omnibus at one point. And then last but not least, we have the Spider-Man Clone Saga volumes 1 and 2, and the Ben Reilly volumes 1 and 2. And I recently reread them in December, and I mean, I read 3 volumes of all of these 3 I read in December, and it was a faster read than expected for what I've heard of this. But you'll hear more about that in another video, I guess. Okay, so here we fully dive into the indie comic books companies, and with Image I decided to have all of the colorful books or the color design books here on the top shelf. So we first have Big Hard Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky on both volumes here, and one more volume to go, and that series is finished off. And that's actually one of my favorite series, published by Image, and therefore it has stayed. Then of course we have Chew by John Layman, complete editions 1 to 6 in the Omnivore edition, and then Invincible volumes 1 to 12 by Robert Kirkman. Then we have Morning Glories by Nick Spencer, which is probably the only thing that I like written by Nick Spencer that I know of. Maybe he has written something that I haven't thought of him that he actually was a writer on, but I do not like his Spider-Man that much. But if they publish an omnibus, I'll probably bend over and buy that one. But still, when we have Revival by Tim Seeley and Mike Norton, and of course Saga by Brian K. Vaughan, volumes 1, 2, and 3, and hopefully we'll get 3 more volumes worth of that someday. And on this shelf you can see that I've tried to make sort of a black and white shelf on the designs of the hardcover books. And starting off with Happy by Grant Morrison, reread that last year. Yeah, that's a keeper. And then we have Greg Ruckus, probably his best work, Lazarus, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Don't know what is happening with that series right now. I do not pick up any single comic books, so I don't really know what is going on with that. And then we have Criminal by Ed Brubaker. These are the Icon press books. So we do have new editions out of that now, or we should have new editions out of that soon under the Image label. But I'm keeping with these. I loved these. I do not need the 3rd volume, actually, but I do love these. Then we have East of West by Jonathan Hickman, and is it John Dragotta? I do believe so. And finally have the 3rd volume out of that series, still shrink wrapped, so I haven't read it, but I do need to start up from the beginning to be able to finish that run off, as I often do when they release a new Image hardcover. But there's not really many more series that I wait for them to wrap up. I think it's just Big Heart Sex Criminals right now. Then we have another Hickman book, just the Manhattan Projects, and this one was one of my very favorites in the beginning of collecting, and it still is, but I'm so sad that they stopped publishing the deluxe format for this one. Then we have Velvet by Brubaker and Steve Epting, and I picked this up basically because I love that team in the Ed Brubaker Captain America run, and it does really remind me of the Captain America run, as the Brubaker run really was sort of a spy take on Captain America. And then we have The Wicked Plus the Divine by Gillen, and all of these are very minimalistic in design. We have the god emblems here in gold, silver, and bronze, and then it's all black. And last but not least, the 4 Walking Dead compendiums by, of course, Robert Kirkman. Yes, and now on this row, 3rd row of this bookshelf of independent books, we have the Vertigo deluxe editions, and starting off with one of the greatest things that I ever read, Fables by Bill Willingham, volumes 1 to 15, complete editions. Of course, there is also the Jack of Fables deluxe editions, but Jack really didn't do it so much for me, so I basically just went for the Fables deluxe editions. And then we have Jason Aaron's Scalped, which I only read one time, and that one time I think I went through all of these books within 2 days. It was one of the best reads, and I need to experience that once again. And I do hope that these actually get a omnibus treatment, as many other of Vertigo's top sellers has been getting. Then we have Sweet Tooth by Jeff Lemire once more, and Volume 1, you betcha, is signed by Jeff Lemire himself, and also a sketch on Gus. And then we have Day Tripper. I cried reading that, so definitely keeping that. And V for Vendetta by Alan Moore. I actually really enjoyed that the second time around reading it. And Books of Magic by Neil Gaiman. Keeping that. Dark Knight by Paul Dini, Eduardo Rizzo. Sort of a behind-the-scenes documentary on a mugging that happened to Paul Dini whilst the time he was in the Batman the Animated Series team. And then we have We Free by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley. Would really like to have a deluxe edition of this one, but they are hard to find. And last but not least, we have a Wizard Entertainment hardcover book featuring Jim Lee. And the reason I had this is because it features... Whoa, did you see that? No panic. Features some of the earliest work of Jim Lee and sketches and whatnot. And therefore I kept this one. Yeah. Let me rearrange this again and we'll see the next shelf. Okay, so on this shelf we have some odd ones and then some very, very good designed collected editions. To our left we have Rachel Rising Omnibus by Terry Moore, and a very odd one, the SpongeBob Treasure Chest Deluxe Edition. And why do I keep this? Because I like SpongeBob. It's, at some points this is not a kid show. I don't know where or if it's always been like that, but there are some questioning scenes within this show. And this comic book kind of questions some of the things. And I do like this one. This is, you know, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy is a parody of Aquaman, obviously, but here they actually go through with it in a very good way. Irredeemable, volumes 1 to 5, the best recommendation I've gotten by Jess Bragg to read, written by Mark Waid, and the artist I'm unsure of, but it's one of the greatest reads that I've had because it has a very satisfying ending. Then we have Mighty Morphin. Then we have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers by Boom, volumes 1 to 4. So year 1, year 2, Shattered Grid, and Beyond the Grid. And now there's 2 more volumes that should be called the Necessary Evil volumes 1 and 2 to finish off this series, because I've recently seen a Kickstarter about all of these volumes to get out by the time of 2022, I believe it was. And yeah, by that they had 2 more volumes to end this era, so that is nice to know, but it's 2 more volumes of this to have a complete set of Power Rangers. Then of course we go to the big 2 from IDW, and those 2 titles is of course Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers. So here we have the 11 first published TMNT deluxe editions of the ongoing series, I would say. And I'm not going to pull out each and every one, but this cover of Wrath is pretty epic, pretty good. And then we have the start of Transformers Phase 1. Here's Volume 1 with Megatron. And then I actually continue this run on the second bookshelf. And here you can see the remaining Phase 1 volumes of Transformers and the 4 now published Phase 2 IDW editions of Transformers with a little more of a colorful cover design. And I think there's 1 more volume to go, so volume 12, and then we start off volume 3 for Transformers, and that should be that for me after that. That's a lot of that. This is probably gonna be the weirdest kind of frame for my assortment of my collection, because to our left here we have a random Batarang, and to our right we have some manga volumes of Yu-Gi-Oh! The 3-in-1 editions, and right below that we have some oversized books. But this is just how it went with mapping out how I was gonna arrange my books. And yeah, what I really want to show you with this frame up is the absolute editions, and as well as the library editions from Dark Horse. So here we have some of the very best and some double dips of material from DC, which is in my Batman Hush Absolute and Batman Robin Reborn, which is the Grant Morrison run, as well as the Superman and Batman Absolute Volume 1 by Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness and Michael Turner. And I did have the Omnibus of Superman, Batman, but having read that, it really, really dips in quality after Jeff Loeb left the title. So even though they maybe were gonna publish a volume 2 and you were gonna have a complete set of the Superman Batman series, it was nothing for me. I am very pleased having just the Jeff Loeb material for now in the Absolute edition. Then we have All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley. Really need to reread this because I've only read it once and seen the movie once, and it's excellent. Then we have Justice League Origin by Jim Lee and Geoff Johns. I'm keeping this until I can see how big the artwork looks in the upcoming Justice League Omnibus. But probably I'll keep this because having this and Absolute Batman Hush is like going to the movies, kind of a one set reading and everything, and the oversized format and everything. You just love it. And then we have Absolute Justice League of America, the World's Greatest Superheroes by Alex Ross and Paul Dini. Batman the Dark Prince Charming by Marini. And then we have some art books like the dual arts for Yu-Gi-Oh! Graphic Ink by Ivan Reyes and Icons by Jim Lee. And then we go into the Dark Horse published books of my Avatar The Last Airbender collection. So the first 3 books, or first 5 books you can see here, are the art of the animated series. So the first book collects all the art from The Last Airbender, and then the following 4 are for the Legend of Korra seasons, book 1, 2, 3, and 4, of course. And then we have the actual comic book series, The Promise, The Surge, of course, which is the essential read if you want to know what happens to Zuko's mom. The Rift, Smoke and Shadow, and North and South, and the latest one, Imbalance. Then we have The Lost Adventures, the Team Avatar Tales, which is not really essential, but just small little one-shots. Then we have The Legend of Korra, Turf Wars, and Ruins of the Empire, which I have yet to taken out of a shrink wrap, but want to have a reread as soon as I've finished off rewatching the animated series itself. And here on the final bookshelf that I'm going through, on the top shelf we have literary books, actual prose novels and such. And first one is an architect book 1-to-1 written by Andreas Martin Löw, a Swedish architect that I really look up to. And then we have Harry Potter illustrated by Jim Kay, the first 4 books. Still waiting for 4 more books still, or is it 7? I think I got confused with a number of movies that there's of Harry Potter now, but yeah, still some self-help books and Hunger Games all in one, Death Note, the Los Angeles BB murder cases. I've read this once or twice now. Still a good companion to the Death Note series. And then we have some comic book, kind of sort of documentary books. The Marvel Comics The Untold Story by Sean Ho. If you really get a new perspective on a lot of people involved in Marvel reading this one. And then we have Super Gods by Grant Morrison, which is basically his view into the world of the comic book industry. So you kind of go back and forth on how the comic industry works and everything, and his own life story. And then we have Slugfest, inside the epic battle of 50 years between Marvel and DC. And yeah, it's sort of biased, I think, but yeah, I guess Marvel is winning. Then we have the DC Icon books, Batman Nightcrawler, Catwoman Soul Stealer, Superman Dawnbreaker, and Wonder Woman Warbringer. All different writers upon them, and really sort of young teenage books. And what we have here on the second shelf is all of my Swedish comic books, which is not a lot, because most of it I keep in single issue format still, in boxes, stored away in my closet. But here are the collected editions, and we have some books by Kim W. Anderson, both artist and writer for these books. This one's actually signed by him, you can see here. It's called Elena. Sort of a horror coming out story mix. And another published book of his, Astrid. And last but not least, for the Kim W. Anderson books, Love Hurt Deluxe Edition, which actually I think it has a Dark Horse paperback edition. This is all small one-shot anthology stories about how love hurts. It's a great title, works with so many genres, because it basically takes up each and every genre that has ever been. Then we have Herman Hedning, Beer, Broom and Bastards. Don't think I've actually opened up this one, but it was a Kickstarter project signed by the creator, and the same goes for this one. Do I dare pull this out? I don't think I do. This Totalitarium collects all the 5, as of now, Kickstarter books that has been published about this character, and collects all of the issues that these do have. I do have the single issues for all of these stories, but still I keep them until they have collected each and every issue in this type of prestige format. This is some of the best books that has been released in the Swedish public, I believe. And then some paperbacks, same characters. And then we have Elvis by Tony Kronstam. My very most favorite comic book, which is sadly not publishing anymore because the creators going separate ways. And yeah, all of these volumes, I think one of them is signed. Let's see if I can find that one. Maybe it's this one. Say Hello to My Little Friend. Yep. So he drew me as a dog and then himself as Elvis, of course. Yeah. And then to our right, we have our Jim Lee action figure. I don't know what they call this anymore. Blue figure line with a printed art print by Jim Lee. And here on this row, we really have the beginning of the manga books. And a lot of them I've sold off since last time. Because just there a lot of the shows that I was watching in anime form, and then picked up the manga to get further ahead of where the show was being. And then I just realized that I really much more enjoy them as an anime, and therefore I sold them. So we have a bit more of a condensed manga collection now. And first off, Attack on Titan, which is directly condescending my point that I was just making, because I love this anime show, but I also love this manga. So, still waiting for 2 more volumes, I believe, or maybe, no, it's gonna take 3 more volumes of these colossal editions to finish off this beautiful, beautiful series by Hajime Isayama. And yeah, I just hope it sticks the landing this April when the last issue or chapter is coming out. And then we have a sort of a risque kind of collection here on the bookshelves. There are so many books that I actually should hide if I ever got children. This is the High School of the Dead full color edition, Omnibus volumes 1 and 2. And I don't think I even want to open this up for you. Let's just move on to other hardcover editions, like the Full Metal Alchemist. These are the Full Metal editions, so all in hardcovers, volumes 1 to 9, and by this time I'm making this video, volumes 10 and 11 should also be released. But I'm sure to add those to my collection soon. Then we have Junji Ito books, Uzumaki and Tomi, or Tomie, however you're gonna pronounce that. Some of the finest work by Junji Ito, and those two scared the hell out of me, so of course I'm keeping them. Any book that actually got some sort of reaction out of me, or it's just a kick-ass story, I tried to keep in the collection, because what else is the point? And then we have Death Note, the all-in-one edition. I used to have 12 separate volumes of this, but then this Bible came out, so I bought it. And this collects the whole series of Death Note, all in one, as it says. So you remember some shelves ago, I already showed you the first volumes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, here are the rest volumes of the Yu-Gi-Oh! 3-in-1s, and I know this is confusing with how I've made this, and I know this is a very long video also, but still, keep with me, there are 2 more rows of books to go through. So, as I said, the rest of the volumes of Yu-Gi-Oh! The 3-in-1, and ironically, the last one is a 2-in-1. And then we have Ultraman, volumes 1 to 13, still ongoing. It's just a kick-ass sort of Iron Man alternate character. Actually, this character, I'm not really sure which came out first, Ultraman or Iron Man, because I think they both originated in the 60s. But still, let's move on. We have I Am a Hero, published by Dark Horse, Omnibus, volumes 1 to 11, which is the complete series, and a very original zombie series, I would say. And there are very few original zombie series I also would like to add. But this one stays with me until I can reread it again, because that ending kind of hit hard on some points. And yeah, 1 more shelf to go. And so for this time, we've arrived at the last shelf for this time's graphic novel collection video. We have our recommender shelf almost, as well as the Cullen Bunn 6-gun deluxe editions, volumes 1 to 6, so the complete set there. We also have the Rick Remender Fear Agent, volumes 1 and 2, and the Black Science, volumes 1 to 3, Deadly Class, volumes 1 to 2, and last but not least, the Private Eye by Brian K. Vaughan. And some of these needs a reread for me, because I don't know if I want to keep some of them. I am not even going to say which titles I'm thinking about selling here, because these are some great books, I know. But always this kind of, what am I going to keep, what am I going to sell? So until next time, you'll see an update on how my collection looks. I thank you so much for watching this over an hour long of a video, and thank you for watching. Please give a like and don't forget to subscribe. Should really put that in the beginning of this video, because if you watch this long, you are amazing. And thank you again for watching. See you in another video. Bye bye.